Coming up on the LCS Preview Show, we break down Week 7, ward up Week 8, and count down the top 5 amazing plays from the league. Plus, Alex Each and Overpow will reveal who they think are the best mid laners in the world. Don't go anywhere. The LCS Preview Show starts right now.
Now the Wolves turn around. Amazing goes in. There it is. Kill picked up. Reginald nicely played.
It will be Gambit closing out the match, taking down Millennium. CLG brings a win streak to 4.
Yeah, and in style, too.
And Fnatic finally do it. They pick up a win after losing 8 games in a row.
Give away.
Nice! Woo! Sheep is somehow still alive. That's one hell of a coat he's wearing. 53 minutes into the game, XDG takes down Cloud9.
Hello and welcome to the LCS Preview Show. I am your host, Rivington Bisney III, along with Joshua Jat Leesman, and we're here to drop some knowledge as we head into our second Super Week of the season. How you feeling, Jat?
Pretty superb right now. It's because we had so many damn games League of Legends about to come up.
Yeah, lots and lots. So let's start out today's trip through the LCS over in Cologne, Germany, where Expect and crew were looking to snap a 7-game losing streak against Froggen and Alliance. Starting out with that Fnatic versus Alliance matchup, Fnatic trying to end a 7-game losing streak, like we said.
Yeah, you can definitely see Alliance was looking stronger coming into this game.
It's been the game for Froggen, a lot of people said. Back on Karthus, back on his old ways, gets a good one on Expect there, and he had his number completely throughout the game.
Yeah, Froggen back in form this game really showed why Karthus was a big pick for him in the past.
Starting this fight out, Alliance with great coordination, and Expect is going to make a quick call from Froggen there. He's got his number onto him once again. Expect couldn't do anything in this game, and he's been the one to try and carry for Fnatic. They made it tough for him.
Yeah, he didn't expect the flash over the wall when he was trying to get him with that shockwave.
Not at all. Froggen's aggressive play on Karthus set the tone that game, and Alliance hand Fnatic another loss. Fnatic versus Gambit, the next match we want to highlight. Everyone was wondering when Fnatic would turn things around.
Yeah, and Cyanide was the one who came out big at the start of this. There's a lot of AP, a lot of poke on the Fnatic team, but it was Cyanide going in hard at the start of the game.
It turning things around with Wukong very nicely as we see Gambit just trying to regain a little bit of control, but never did they have that. Gambit in their own jungle again, caught by Fnatic.
It really seems like when Gambit loses, they lose badly, and this was the game Fnatic needed to turn it around.
And it didn't help anything that Yellow Star and as well Reckless on Sivir, the on the hunt, the initiations, this Soul Shackle, just allowing Fnatic in the base of Gambit.
Yeah, also notice how fast Cyanide was with the Sivir ultimate coming in there. This was a flawless victory for Fnatic. They did not die at any point in this game.
They were able to make it through the base, clean up a few more kills, and bring it around to a near 33-minute win for them. Very nice, and they start off on a good foot. Next up, Alliance versus SK, where SK was able to pick up the win, and they are red hot now going up against the 6-9 Alliance.
Yeah, Alliance was riding really high on the confidence from their earlier win, and you could see that in this initiation. Shook went all out, popped the blue ult immediately, but it gets turned around.
A lot of times we see that Shook initiation being the thing that helps Alliance get the game rolling, but the intervention and the plays coming in were really able to help pick up a big kill there for SK. And this 4-man Eve ultimate just sending Alliance into a frenzy that they could not recuperate from.
Yeah, and how good is SK right now? Seemingly all together right there. They completely dodged the shockwave out there. Froggen missed everybody, and at that point, SK was just chasing down one after another.
Yeah, they tied their shoes tight for this one as it was a coast-to-coast fight. Tabs goes down here. They chase it out, eventually get the ace in this fight. SK just continues to keep the roll going. 9-1 already in that clip. As you see, hugs all around for that game. Super Hot Crew versus Roccat is the next matchup. While SK are climbing, Roccat are headed in the other direction.
Yeah, what's happening with Roccat? Kind of like what happened to Fnatic after they were the #1 team in Europe. It's almost a curse to be up there because it just means you're about to go on a losing streak.
You can see it's already 4-1, 13 minutes in. Yanko's trying to take back a bit of the jungle. Impaler stays alive in this, and the Super Hot Crew just comes up with so much.
Super Hot Crew really coming into their own as this European LCS season takes over. You can just see some consistency and some plays in the bottom lane.
Yeah, Migs one after the other, gets the box, then the hook after on Vander. They clean up more kills onto Celebr's Lucian. very good play, and Super Hot Crew really able to take the victory nicely over Roccat, who, like we said, have been falling from grace a little bit. And there it is. You know, you don't hug as your brothers, or you don't handshake as brothers. You hug. Brothers hug.
Yeah, of course, Super Hot Crew feels good.
Yeah, feeling so good right now. After 7 weeks of European LCS action, let's take a look at how the table is set right now. Gambit Gaming has used their alphabetical superiority to climb over Roccat, even though they're both technically tied for first place, with the currently OP SK Gaming just 1 game behind in third. And with Super Week's worth of games coming up in Cologne, Germany, every team will have 4 chances to climb those standings. Let's take a look at the schedule. In just about 20 minutes, day 1 of the Super Week kicks off with 5 games. Up first, the Copenhagen Wolves looks to sink their teeth into Fnatic's 1-game win streak, followed by a battle between the first place teams, Roccat and Gambit. Then on Wednesday, we get you through the Hump Day doldrums with 6 games, including Diamond and Gambit taking on SK Gaming and amazing super fast reflexes. Then on Thursday, Super Week 8 of the European LCS comes to a close with 5 more matches. The day gets hopping with Froggen and Alliance trying to take a frostbite out of Alex Ish and Gambit. Now for more on the European LCS and SK Gaming's climb up the ranks, I'd like to welcome Trevor Quickshot Henry to the show. What's going on, Quickshot? Did you survive the carnival?
I did, and I'm super excited to be here, surviving Carnival in Cologne, just as we're getting ready for Carnival games in Super Week in the LCS.
All right, Quickshot. The first thing I've got to ask you about is the team you called the best in Europe, SK Gaming. What's been their key to recent success, and do you really believe they're the best team in Europe right now?
Well, in my opinion, SK Gaming has simply learned to work as a team as the split has gone on. At the beginning of the year, SK had moments of brilliance, but it never added up to map control or objectives. They have 5 wins out of their last 6 games, and it could have easily have been 6 for 6. If we break it down a little bit more in depth, Freddy, he's a strong split-pushing top laner who's able to roam for Dragon and tower fights when it's required. Jezz and Candy Panda deliver at all stages of the game, and Jezz doesn't often outright win his lane, but he doesn't need to because he farms up well enough to become a force to be reckoned with in those mid-game team fights for SK. In conjunction with those 3, you're going to have Svenska and Raider that always start the fights. They're performing exceptionally well with those in-meta picks. To answer the question, Riv, I do believe they're the best team in Europe right now, and I'm expecting a lot from them going into Super Week.
Well, if you go by best team KDA for a week, it's hard to argue with you there, Quickshot. SK Gaming's Week 7 performance is the 2nd highest team KDA in LCS history, behind only their Week 9 performance from last spring. Those are some pretty impressive numbers. So let's shift from the best team in Europe to arguably the best player in the league. Amazing has just been that, and he's back-to-back MVP awards to prove it. Is he the best jungler in Europe right now?
Oof, that's a really tough question to answer. I think he's definitely had the largest impact for his team, and arguably the biggest impact for any team in the last 2 weeks. He's played Lee Sin 3 out of 4 games. He also leads the entire European LCS with a kill participation of 81%. His performance in Week 6 ranks as the 2nd best 1-week KDA for a jungler in the European LCS history. And for his team, the Wolves have turned around their questionable decision-making from earlier in the split. It's due to Amazing taking charge of their mid-game decision-making. He finds picks, he finds objectives to fight over, and he's going to need to continue to do that if the Wolves want to pick up more wins during Super Week. But I'm definitely expecting him to. He's got the caliber.
All right, and now for a click-by-click breakdown of Amazing's moves, let's safeguard over to Jack, who's hanging out across the studio.
Thank you very much, Riv. And if you've been watching LCS, you've heard casters on both sides of the Atlantic marvel at the sheer speed of Amazing reflexes and the quality of his plays. In fact, they're so fast, it's nice to break it down jump by jump on the telestrator. First off, there's been a couple Lee Sin plays that he's been able to pull off. And the thing about Amazing is how he makes multiple people on the other team unsafe. We can actually just start this off really quickly. We can see Amazing land the kick, and now pause it right here, actually. Normally, when you get kicked by Lee Sin, you're worried about the distance of him closing and maybe kicking you back, which is why Peke is pulling himself so far back that he wants to try and make it safe. But what they're not considering is the Amazing kick, when he jumps to the side and gets Yellow Star back. Let's actually roll this clip at half speed just to see how quick he is, because it's in slow motion. As soon as he lands, he gets the ward, and then he takes a few extra steps over so he can kick Yellow Star completely back. Let's roll this around one more time, all the way back, so we can see this play in full speed. Let's roll it now in full speed, just about how quickly he pulls this off. Just 1, 2, 3. One swift motion to get Yellow Star all the way onto the other side. And let's actually take a look at this next clip. This was really the most impressive one. And before we get into this, I have to note that Amazing has already landed the kick, the first part of the kick onto Kevin, the Sonic Wave, and he's way back here. You do not expect, as a Morgana, that this guy is going to be able to close onto you. And this is just the no safety that Amazing gives to everyone else on the team. Let's just roll this clip at half speed now so we can see Amazing how easily and seamlessly he gets in. He also managed to get Jay Ree, so it knocked up Kerp for the extra damage because he hit the target farthest in the back of the team. And it is just those type of Lee Sin plays that are making it so unsafe for the enemy team. It's not just the person who gets hit by the Sonic Wave, it's everyone around them, which is something that mentally players really haven't adapted to yet. So for more on the European LCS, let's head back over to Riven Quickshot.
Amazing not only pulled off his amazing moves in back-to-back weeks, he pulled off back-to-back MVPs as well. And this is just his rookie season. But in an interesting trend in the European LCS, 6 of the 7 MVP awards this split have gone to LCS rookies. So Quickshot, are we looking at the next generation of LCS All-Stars?
Well, the simple answer to your question is yes. The young blood that's entered the LCS has consistently shown an aptitude to blow us away. Think about Vander on Thresh, Amazing on Lee Sin, Overpower on bloody well anything. These players are the next generation of superstars. They're looking to make their mark in the competitive scene. And unless the old guard learns some new tricks, I'm expecting this trend to continue.
All right, and well, next we've got to talk about Fnatic. After dropping 8 straight games, they were finally able to smash the Nexus against Gambit. Have you spoken to Fnatic at all since the win?
So I have actually spoken to the players, and the biggest problem stems from their mindset and their mentality, both in and out of the game. When you look at their winning streak, Fnatic got so involved in their own strong lanes, their great rotations, that they actually took practice for granted. The team have all said this very publicly, and when they started losing, that mindset problem was intensified. Their thought process was overly negative. They began doubting every single call. They hesitated to engage and to even make plays just individually in their own lanes. I think with the root of the problem lying within their own minds, the team needs to find a way to trust their teammates and play confidently. Because if they don't find a way to deal with that mindset issue, these heavy swings are very likely to return and continue.
And while Fnatic's struggles have taken center stage over the last couple of weeks, the phenoms of the first half of the split, Roccat, have started to fall back to earth a little bit. They've now lost 3 games in a row and have dropped into a tie for first place. Has the quality of their play dropped off, or have the other LCS teams or squads started to figure them out?
So I don't know about that. In my opinion, Roccat are just in a small slump. They took a few days off leading into week 6. It meant they went 1-1. Last week, they did drop both of their games, and truthfully, they didn't look to be their usual selves. Traditionally, we've seen Roccat performing well in lane, and then transitioning fairly early on to team fights and dragon fights. And I think Roccat needs to ensure they show strong lanes during Super Week this week. In terms of other teams figuring it out, I think the teams that are beating Roccat in the LCS are starting in the bottom lane. They're banning out Saliva, picking away his champions, and then ganking him and Vander often. And I expect this trend to continue. So we'll see if Roccat can adapt to this focused playstyle in Super Week. And if Roccat can work around that and anticipate it, it's going to allow them to pick up some wins.
All right, and since this is a super week, that means Roccat will have 4 chances to regain some altitude in the standings, including our European BF game of the week, Roccat versus Gambit. Quickshot, what's your take on this matchup?
So this match is basically 2 mirror image teams doing battle. Every single member of both Roccat and Gambit share similar playstyles, similar champion pools, and even similar weaknesses. Both Genji and Saliva are somewhat overshadowed by their star, Thresh, playing supports, Edward and Vander. Both teams absolutely love to pick fights around Dragon, and they often start early Dragons if they feel the opportunity's there. Both teams also hinge on their jungler getting their lanes rolling. So with Diamond and Jankos being so important in securing kills to give their lanes an advantage, I think early aggression, counter ganks are an absolute certainty, and fights around the Dragon. So we'll see which team can do it better.
All right, Quickshot, I know you've got 5 games to get ready for today, so I'll let you go. Thank you very much for the knowledge buff.
Well, the pleasure is mine. Remember, the buff does wear off after the games are wrapped up, so refresh it next week.
All right, now let's send it over to Shox, who's standing by with the guys who will be in the middle of today's game of the week, Rockat's Overpower and Alex from Gambit.
Thank you very much, Riven. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen. Of course, you guys played 2 times already, but last time you played, it was Gambit featuring subs. But the last time that you guys were up against each other in the mid lane, it was Overpower that got the best of you, Alex. So what did your team focus on going into this match versus Roccat?
So I can't tell all the strategies we're doing. So maybe I can tell that we won't pick Heimerdinger. That is one of the heroes that won't be picked.
Aw.
And wasn't picked yet. But overall, I think we just need a solid game, and our play styles are pretty similar. So we just need to not do mistakes and outplay them. But I think it's the same for every team you're playing against.
Yeah, and it's going to be a very interesting matchup there in that mid lane. Overpow, what do you think are the strengths and weaknesses of Alex's play?
I think that he's really good with his team. Like, he likes to gank with his team. The synergy. Yeah, the synergy with his team is really good, but I think he sometimes do bad. So it's his legitimate minus.
Well, Alex, of course, you get to talk about Overpow as well. What do you like and dislike about his play?
So he really likes to play unique champions that no one plays, and this gives you really high edge. He likes wired builds, but I think sometimes he will lose because of that.
All right, very interesting. Now, you guys are obviously two very good mid laners here in Europe, so I'd like to use your analytical skill to maybe look at the whole world and who might be the best mid laners in the world, starting right here in Europe. And I know, Alex, that you chose Nukeduck as to be the best mid laner here in Europe. Why is that?
So Nukeduck got pretty similar play style to me, and he got much time to playing like outside of LCS, so he trains a lot, like hell a lot. I think he plays, you know, like 12 to 16 hours a day. And I can always meet him in solo queue, in like deep in the nights, for example. And you know, I really like playing against him. I think that his weakness is that he doesn't play mage heroes that much, so he doesn't play Orianna, Ziggs, and stuff like that. But at the moment, meta still favors some kind of assassin heroes. So I think in current meta, he's really good in EU, maybe the best.
Oh, okay. And Overpow, you've picked Froggen as the best mid laner in EU, and why is that?
It's the only guy that gives me hard time mid lane. I think he's really the best mid laner in the mid lane right now, and the best player in EU right now.
Interesting. None of you guys have chosen each other, but that's okay. And then if we turn our attention, of course, to North America, the best mid laner over there, you both chose Bjergsen. It's not that much of a surprise. Why is it, Alex?
So you can see that TSM increased a lot with Bjergsen pickup. You can see that Bjergsen is almost always winning the lane 1v1. He applies a lot of pressure in lane, in team fights, everywhere. He got really great synergy with TSM, and TSM as a team, like, they were playing around Reginald. I can say that Reginald was a good player, but he couldn't like get that much time to train because of the TSM thing that he's like managing. So after, like, Bjergsen is much more dedicated, and now that with their strategy, with their like team comps and everything, Bjergsen just suits really well, and they shine.
Hey, Overpow, why Bjergsen for you?
I think the better question would be, why didn't I choose Bjergsen? If you look at the LCS NA, he does really good in every game. He beats almost everyone, out-farms, out-roams everyone in the mid lane. And I think he really deserves the first place.
That is convincing. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Good luck in your matchup later in the day, of course. And now we're going to throw it through 38% of the world's time zones back to Jat and Riv.
Thank you very much, Shocks. And the 3.4 patch is coming this weekend to an LCS near you, as long as you are a pro in North America.
Yeah, so the 4.3 patch will only be implemented in the North American LCS this Super Week due to concerns about the amount of time the European teams have to practice on the patch, since the games kick off in about 15 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, and one of the biggest changes on the patch is to everybody's favorite Instaban.
Yeah, it's kind of like they say, no pain, no gain. Casting loses damage on his Null Sphere and his Force Pulse, and the duration of his silence has been shortened. But the result of all that might be the fact that he gets some actual playing time in LCS games.
Another of the potentially LCS-changing modifications in the 4.3 patch is the tweak in the fear mechanic used by Fiddle, Nocturne, and Shaco. Opponents will now run away screaming from the caster instead of in a random direction.
Next, let's jump to Kha'Zix, whose damage from both his Q and E have been nerfed. However, he had an extra second of stealth added for each charge of his ultimate.
And the slipperiest big man in the game wasn't slippery enough to avoid getting the damage from his body slam and explosive cast, reducing this patch.
And finally, we've got a hit on the boots of mobility. Not only have they been put on the clearance rack, 200 gold cheaper, they now have less base movement speed when you're in combat.
I also heard they thought about renaming them, but we'll see.
Yeah. The boots of mobility.
The boots of mobility. Anyway, I can't believe it's already time for the 4.3 patch. It seems like only yesterday the North American pros were playing on 4.2.
Well, it probably seems that way because Sunday was the day that they played on 4.2, which is a couple days ago.
It's all a blur, but we'll see how it continues to go from here on out. There's a lot of games coming. It's a super week. How many? 32?
Yeah,
coming
32
up.
games, 16 in EU,
per
16
EU.
in NA. We got 5 coming up right away today. It's going to be one hell of a ride.
It's going to be absolutely amazing. And as we get to kick off more action, there's for those of you who didn't catch the past weekend's action, the NA LCS, if you're like me and just want to sit down and do it all again, let's take a look at the biggest games from North America's Week 7, starting with XDG and their new jungler, Smithy, taking on Cloud9. XDG versus C9 started off, and XDG faced a tough task here with their new lineup. They look to take second place on Cloud9.
Yeah, and right off the bat, nobody expected Zuna's return to AD carry with the new pickup Sheep to just kill straight up 2v2 the Cloud9 bot lane.
And Sheep would continue playing well throughout the entire game, and the story was hip to hip with Benny in initiations like this.
Yeah, just 2 men going in really strong to defend that Baron. Then the rest of the XDG team just collapsed in around it and cleaned up Cloud9. This is a big turning point.
XDG has not had momentum like this from the mid to the late game, and they kept playing very, very strong. We see situations like this where even pros make some mistakes.
Oh, man. Handballs were not happy about that one. Big mistakes, but that was just part of the story. XDG continued to play solid.
And a huge win with their new lineup. They are very happy about that and hope to continue that success. Next up, the highlight is CLG versus Curus. Link versus Voyboy in the mid lane was the one to watch here.
Yeah, big mid lane jukes here by Link. Voyboy was trying to go in for the final kill, but he just misplayed it. Link and Dexter came in for the collapse.
Sometimes aggressive habits are hard to kick. Link takes advantage of that, and we'll see that he also takes advantage of the full DFG combo here in the late game.
Yeah, that's an aggressive habit that's just going to keep on working for CLG. If he can destroy people like that in late game LeBlanc, it just turns the game completely around. Voyboy played well up to that point. This was the end of it.
In a 50-minute game, this battle right here allowed CLG to go coast to coast. Link helping out with the big plays, CLG continuing their winning streak. Next up, Dig versus Team Solo Mid. Speaking of mid laners, Reginald is back, 7 for Bjergsen.
Yeah, this was a pretty big return for Reginald, but it wasn't necessarily the story of the game. It was actually the odd ones, Wukong, coming in again and again, seemingly always hitting everyone on the map that was close to him with that Cyclone.
Coming in huge. Special had a few plays of his own to set up the odd one on that, but like you said, it was all about the general leading fights. This one looked like it could have been bad for TSM, but the category 5-man Cyclone flash over the wall from odd one to bring it back.
Yeah, Cruiser came in just for the end so he could get all 5 of them. It doesn't matter that odd one dies in this fight because he started the fight for his team and they came out on top.
And we got to remember, Reggie still back in the game, played quite consistent for the team with the odd one going off onto everybody to get cycloned again, and they were able to come out with a pretty big win for Bjergsen in the sub.
Yeah, once TSM had a little bit of momentum in this game, they just carried clean through, handing Dignitas yet another loss.
Looking at our next highlight, it's going to be from Cloud9 versus Team Solo Mid. You can see reeling off of that game, they hoped to get a win over Cloud9.
Yeah, this was supposed to be this crazy, amazing, hyped up matchup, but right off the bat, Meteos gets the jump on a TSM, makes him pay.
Who has some of the most hands in First Blood? It's Meteos, coming in huge for his team. You even see him in just a few seconds coming up even bigger on the Kazakhs, and Special was trying to make some plays of his own.
Yeah, that was X-Special's tribute to Yellow Star right there. Unfortunately, it happens to the best of them. That was a tilt play.
When you try to grab a little bit, sometimes the other team gets more, and Cloud9 continues to go on this. Lemon Nation with amazing dark bindings in this game as well to help shut down that odd one Wukong.
Cloud9 felt really good after that game, coming off from an earlier defeat, looking strong now.
And after 8 crazy games, the standings shake out like this. Team Solo Mid is still holding on to the top spot, but Cloud9 and the finally living up to their potential Counterlogic Gaming are closing in fast, thanks in part to Link's 2nd straight MVP performance.
Yeah, and the other team who's surging right now is Team Coast. Over the last 3 weeks, they've gone 5-1 and climbed from the basement up to the ground floor. Not many people are talking about them, but they've been hot.
Right, and we are still 3 days away from the start of the North America's Super Week. It's never too early to start hoarding the nourishments needed to sustain you through 16 games. The NA LCS kicks off on Friday with 5 games on the big stage, beginning with those evil geniuses and their maniacal plan to take over the league, battling Cloud9 and Lemon Nation's Notebook of Knowledge.
Yeah, then on Saturday we've got 6 games coming our way, and the first one promises to be epic. Longtime rivals Counterlogic Gaming and their TSM fanboy Doublelift, as he would like to say, take on Team Solo Mid and an uncertain mid lane situation.
And then on Sunday, Super Week 8 builds up to an epic conclusion as Link goes for a third straight MVP when Counterlogic Gaming takes on High and Cloud9.
And remember, because this is a Super Week, the North American LCS starts on Friday, noon Pacific, 9 p.m. Central European Time. You've been warned.
And with so many good games to choose from, it is hard to pick just one as our BF Game of the Week. But hey, life is full of tough choices, and this week we choose Team Solo Mid versus Counterlogic Gaming.
Yeah, and it's hard to pick any other game because this is the oldest rivalry in competitive esports for League of Legends. They've played 42 matches against each other in premier major tournaments and LCS games. Their head-to-head record is close. 20 wins for TSM, 22 for CLG. In the LCS, they've played 12 times. TSM's won 7, CLG's won 5. CLG actually won all 4 times they met last summer split, but then TSM beat them 2-0 in the playoffs, and they have beaten them each time they played so far this year. That includes the loss that CLG had with Dexter, their only loss since they've had Dexter back in the LCS, and they actually had him fail to score a single kill in that defeat.
But in the jungle aside, the difference in this game might be who goes solo mid for TSM. Reggie is still listed as the starter, but Team Solo Mid has until Friday night at 11:59 Pacific time to make the change back to Bjergsen. And because their 2 mid laners have 2 very different play styles, the amount of pressure on the team will depend on who gets the start.
Yeah, it's obviously a small sample size for Bjergsen versus Link, since Link was in the jungle the first time the teams played, but in TSM's Week 5 win over CLG, Bjergsen went off as Nidalee and racked up 12 of TSM's 27 kills. Link didn't do poorly though. He was the only member of CLG with more kills than deaths, and his KDA was just about the same against Bjergsen as it has been against Reggie. Reggie, on the other hand, has only averaged 3.9 kills per game versus Link. The Brigger King is almost a third of Reggie's total kills in only a 10th of the games.
But in all fairness, Reggie has always been more of a facilitator for his team and less of a carry. And if you go by the numbers, it doesn't seem like it matters who Link is going up against. He's going to get his.
Yeah, numbers aside, even Reginald admits that Bjergsen is a far better player than him right now. So there's going to be a lot of anxious TSM fans out there if it gets close to midnight on Friday, which is the deadline, actually Thursday, and they still haven't heard whether Bjergsen is back in the mid lane.
But even though the battle between Team Solo Mid and CLG is our game of the week, it's only one of 16 NALCS matches this weekend, as we said. And if a team can walk away from their 4 games with 4 wins, their season will suddenly look a lot more super.
Yeah, so far in North American LCS history, we've had 5 Super Weeks. 4 of those times, the team has pulled off a perfect performance. The first of which, actually, we go all the way back to the spring split of last year, was Dignitas. They had a perfect 4-0 record on their way to winning 10 games in a row to start their surge in that split. The second perfect Super Week actually came in with TSM. They went 5-0 and jumped over Curse and Dignitas in the LCS standings on the last week of the spring split. That perfect week actually earned them the #1 seed in the playoffs, and Team Solo Mid rode that momentum to the spring split championship. Also, the first week of the summer split last year, everyone was reduced to Cloud9, the new kids on the block. Meteos and Crew shocked the LCS, going a perfect 5-0 in their first 5 games, including a win over the spring champions TSM. And amazingly, the last team to pull off a perfect Super Week was Vulcan, who is now XGG. They went 5-0 during Week 9 of the summer split and locked in the 2nd seed in the summer playoffs with that performance.
And with teams turning in perfect performances in 4 of 5 Super Weeks, odds are we'll see one again this weekend. Who is your favorite to turn in a perfect 4 games?
Right, so if Reginald ends up starting mid for TSM, I think CLG will come out on top in that matchup, which would mean heading into Sunday's game, Cloud9 versus CLG, I think they're both going to be undefeated. CLG has a good chance, and so does Cloud9. And then if I look at that game, based off CLG's recent performance, I definitely have to say CLG's most likely to walk away with a 4-0 record and kind of make their surge towards the top spots in the league.
All right, we'll have to see. Now, when I think about perfection, the first thing that comes to my mind is the top 5 plays from Week 7 of the LCS, or as we like to call them around these parts, the Penta.
Yeah, Cruiser defends the Baron solo in the first
big boy. However, he does not have Dragon's Descent up or anything to charge that off of. But the burnout, that high damage, he's going to chomp. Now he's getting hit by Baron. He only took 1 hit, though. He is not going to. No, the shield. Pole Belter doesn't have the mana just yet. They can still turn it around. The binding just misses. That's a Dragon Tail for you.
Number 4 coming in, we obviously have to remember the 5-man Cyclone coming from the auto after the flash.
Right now, a lot of pain coming onto him. He's not going to have any good way of getting out. The flash over the wall, 3-4-man knocker from the Odd One. Crump about to go down. He's trying to run away. The Odd One might be the first one to fall. They trade 1-for-1 so far.
Number 3 was Froggett's awesome flash from the Shockwave.
coming in from behind. Pekka's in trouble.
Oh, Pekka is in trouble. There is a decoy in the Cyclone, going to catch up Pekka. Shockwave flashed away from. What a flash from Froggen. They pick up a kill. That was so well timed. Brilliant play from Alliance.
Coming in at number 2, make sure you don't blink, because Link is going for the DFG combo.
So Link can go in.
Well, that's going to be a distortion, and Boy goes down instantly. Everything that Link had went onto him.
Number 1, the amazing kick that we see so many times.
Now the Wolves turn around. Amazing goes in. What an amazing kick that was. Curve goes down. This could actually be the game here for the Wolves if they play their cards right.
And the best thing about this week coming up is we have a super week to get so many amazing plays.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, thank you very much for checking out the LCS preview show. Here's your last hit.
How it stands now for all-time deaths in the North American LCS, Nintendo is the current leader. He's got 235. Reginald's at 202, so if Reggie can die 34 times this game, he will reclaim his spot as the all-time most deaths in the North American LCS. So he needs the support of the TSM fans. Hashtag 34 deaths the dream with Reggie.